Hey everybody, this is Casey Munck with NAMI Central Oregon, and welcome to the Be Kind to Your Mind podcast. Today I'm here with Gordon Wilson, who is a beloved Central Oregon resident and a dear friend of mine. Welcome, Gordon.
Oh, thank you, Casey, for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so excited to dig into the podcast with you today.
Yes, this is a whole new experience for me, so I'm glad to be here.
Wonderful. Well, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you grew up, and what life is like today?
So, starting from the beginning, my mom was born in 1909. My dad was born in 1911, and I can't remember when they got married, but I have pictures of them during World War II. And my dad was a lieutenant commander in the Navy. He taught navigation for pilots on an aircraft carrier. Anyway, after the war, they adopted my sister Connie, and that was in 1949. And then 3 years later, they chose my sister Patty, who has fetal alcohol syndrome. And then they didn't think they could have children, so that's why they adopted my two sisters. And then I was born 13 months later, and my mom was 44 years old when I was born. And so my mom had an infant that was 13 months old and had fetal alcohol syndrome. And then I was born. So she had a baby, an infant. So we were 13 months apart, and she's 44 years old. I hadn't really realized that factor, how much she was going through at the time. Um, just with two kids like that. So it was must have been stressful for her.
Mhm.
Another thing, my dad, he was an only child. His dad was a preacher, and my mom was one of seven children. And my grandfather homesteaded near Chico, California, and he was a very successful farmer. Anyway, the three daughters from my mom and two sisters moved to Santa Cruz, California. And we were close um, in that back then we got together, Sundays and other times of the year. And there was conflict in the family in that there were rich people, rich family members, and poor family members. And we were one of the poors. And so there was a lot of fighting about money. So between the fights with my mom had with her sister and a child with fetal alcohol syndrome, and then my oldest sister, um, it was it was best for me thinking about it um, that I kind of didn't create problems
Mm, mm.
in the home because there was enough going on already. You didn't consciously think about that. It's just that's the way it worked out. And growing up with my sister with fetal alcohol syndrome, she had a flat affect and mentally developmentally delayed, but she had a great body. She was married four times during her life, and my dad said that she had puppy dog syndrome. It followed me home. Can I keep it? Kind of thing. So anyway, my mom had a savior complex. This is what my dad told me later. She had a savior complex, and so her focus in her entire life was on my sisters.
Mm.
And so got married when I was 18, moved away from Santa Cruz to Central Oregon, and thought I wanted to be a farmer. Moved up to Madras, and for some reason, my wife, she didn't like poverty, and so anyway, we moved to Bend, and it's a kind of a long story, but anyway, we ended up living in a garage for 4 years. First 18 years of our marriage was poverty, and we just did everything on our own. And so um, we would go down to Santa Cruz and to visit family. My ex-wife's family was in Santa Cruz, and my family was in Santa Cruz, and so we went down there once a year with two boys, two little boys in the back seat, and you know how that goes, and are we there yet? Are we there yet? It's kind of stuff. Anyway, I can remember this one time that my dad had died, and my mom was living with her sister, the rich sister, and it was about 6 blocks from where my ex in-laws lived, and so I just walked down to where my mom was staying. I walked into the bedroom, knocked, and walked into the bedroom. The first thing that came out of my mom's mouth was, "Let's go find Patty." And I had just driven 12 hours down to see her and hadn't seen her in a year. And that was the first thing out of her mouth. "Let's go find Patty." And I said, "Hi, Mom." And she said, "Let's go find Patty." And I said, "Bye, Mom," and walked out. So when you have, it was like, I didn't really exist. I was
Mhm.
there, and my mom was very domineering, and because of money issues, and my dad was just a school teacher, and then before he died, a couple years before he died, he came out of the closet and he was gay, and so there was kind of a status thing with my mom, and I was supposed to be successful. So
Mm.
I like one example is I wanted to go to college and be like a building inspector, and she says, "They don't make any money. You don't want to do that." So it was all about money, and so that happened several times. So then I eventually just stopped asking her because she had her own um, map laid out.
Agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I was very shy growing up, and just kind of on my own growing up. And
Oh.
then when my dad died, we were living in a garage, and uh, didn't ask for anybody for any money. We just did it on our own and everything. And my mom came up after he died, and we didn't know what we were going to do. But anyway, the bills started coming in, and they had given my two sisters credit cards, and they were paying the bill. And here we are living in a garage, not asking for anything, and my two sisters were just racking up bills like crazy. And the bills came in, and so I called my older sister Connie, and I said, "There's a lot of bills here," and she says, "That's your problem."
Mm.
Mom and Dad said that I could use the credit card, and too bad. And then my younger sister Patty, the one with fetal alcohol syndrome, she didn't comprehend, that there was. I mean, she had no way of paying it or anything like that.
Mm.
So that's kind of my history.
Yeah.
So so
Thank you
that's
for
where.
sharing that, Gordon. I really appreciate your candor and sharing some of those experiences that you've been through. Um, and I know we've talked about this, the dynamic that happens when you are kind of the responsible one that doesn't need a lot of attention in a family when there's a lot of other kids that get attention due to their disability or whatever. Tell me a little bit how that made you feel growing up in a household like that?
Well, I didn't, growing up, I didn't know anything different. I
Yeah.
just knew that they were, you know, when I talked to after my divorce, I was married for 48 years and got a divorce. After my divorce, I went down and reconnected with family because it was all about my wife's family.
Hmm.
And everybody knew. I didn't know my sister had fetal alcohol syndrome until much later before I got um, married. But
Mm.
everybody else knew. And I didn't know my dad was gay, but everybody else knew. It was just
Oh,
normal for me for growing up in that environment. And I've thought about that. How would I have turned out differently um, if I had known when I was at a younger age? I can remember I called my sister retarded because I would, just
mm,
be a kid, and I got slapped for that. And parents have children and that have disabilities, and they, didn't expect it or whatever. But this is what my parents chose. They
right.
chose somebody with a disability. I
Mm,
didn't choose it, and I couldn't do things on my own with my friends. And I didn't have a lot of friends because I was shy, but I had to take my sister along because she didn't have any friends. And so, anyway, it was, I mean, they paid people to be her friend.
mm,
And, but I didn't get any of that. I was all on my own. And I, like I said, I was very shy growing up, and then once I moved away, that was when I was able to open up and be more myself. And I found out I was an extrovert. And then after the divorce, um, let me back up a little bit. When you grow up like that, there's a hole in your life.
yes.
You don't know it, but there's a hole in your life, and you try to fill it with something. And I tried to fill it with marriage, and then we got into a religion that met in the home. And my grandfather was was a preacher. I never met him, and my dad was a deacon in the church and in the choir. And so anyway, you have a hole in your life, and I didn't know all this stuff. It just needed some. There was something missing in my life, so we got into religion, and then after 45 years, it was a fundamentalist religion. Like
Hmm.
we met in the home. It was tight group, and you had to have long hair and you wear a dress, and there was a lot of there were no rules, but there was a lot of rules, unspoken rules. And
Right.
so, like in my upbringing, I couldn't say things that I couldn't be who I wanted to be. I played a role
Hmm.
growing up, and then in the religion, after I left home, I was able to open up and not be shy. But with the religion, you couldn't say certain things because that's doesn't show the marks of Christ and this and that. You couldn't be yourself. So you play another role. And
Mm-hmm.
then with my in-laws and my wife, my in-laws, I didn't know what was going on with them. It was so confusing with them. Um, I would go to work and tell people what was going on with my in-laws, my encounter with the in-laws, because they would come up fairly often and they would stay for 4 days at a time. And it was painful. It was like
Mm-hmm.
I had 15 minutes of conversation to spread out over 4 days. And so I would go to work, and I'm a nurse. I would go to work, and they'd say, "Oh, they're alcoholics." I go, "They don't drink." And he says, "Yeah, but you're describing an alcoholic." And then I learned about dry alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good book out, Adult Children of Alcoholic Syndrome.
Wow.
My ex wife's grandparents were alcoholics. And then it got even deeper. Um, One comment that my mother in law told my ex wife was that she couldn't bond with me because she hadn't changed my diaper. And
Wow.
my ex-wife didn't question it, challenge it, or anything like that. She just brought it to me. It's like, are you kidding me? And so they were emotionally disabled, and they were covert narcissists. And what they wanted to do, because things didn't make sense to me when they were around, and my ex-wife, she just was there to um, do whatever she could for her parents, because
Mm-hmm.
there was probably some issues there, being raised with an emotionally immature person, or and the gaslighting and everything. It was crazy town. But thinking about it for this podcast, they wanted me to disappear. And
Mm-hmm.
kind of that's what I did. I played a role and tried to, not say anything and not do anything that would upset the apple cart, just like when I was a kid. And so it
Mm-hmm.
kind of followed me.
Yeah,
Um,
I see that.
where Yeah. So then after the divorce, then well, back up. I got kicked out of the church because I criticized Donald Trump, and Um, they didn't like that because they were all Trump supporters, and that didn't make any sense to me. And so, all in a fundamentalist church, you are going to heaven and everybody else is going to hell. So, um, got kicked out. So all your friends are gone. And then I got
Oh,
divorced, and then all the family's gone. So I was all by myself. And so that's when I started Zumba, and
okay.
I did nine classes a week, and because there was nothing else in my life, and so then after it starts to heal, then you back off from Zumba, and found out that I'm an empath and have HSP, which is highly sensitive person. I
Mm-hmm.
can see things as like in Zumba, if there's somebody new, I see it and I introduce myself and stuff, and nobody else does. And I was like, why doesn't anybody else see that? You know,
Yeah.
and then I learned, when you start to heal, I learned as an empath, you um, finally wake up. When an empath wakes up, I don't know if you've heard of that. Have you heard of that? When
Yeah, I've heard some of that stuff. This is some nuanced stuff, Gordon, that you're digging into here. I love it.
Okay, I didn't know how much I'm getting into what you wanted. But anyway, when an empath wakes up, they're not mad. They're just, there's patterns that you do, that you've lived that your whole life, and then you go and says, well, this isn't working anymore. This is what I've been doing all my life, making sure everybody is okay. And even did it when I saw you in Costco and I had to leave, and I knew I had said I needed to go and I left, but then but you think about it, did I do it right? Did I say everything right? Was it okay? And then I saw you in Zumba. I says, I just want to make sure that it's okay because I left at Costco. And you gave me this look like, what's the problem? And but that's that's what empaths think about.
So, I definitely know what you're talking about, that feeling of hyper responsibility growing up in a family environment like that. And you're not alone. I think a lot of people, in this community have that caretaker instinct gone awry. Was there a big shift for you that happened that caused that awakening that you're talking about?
Well, the shift was when the instructor said it's not your job to take care of somebody else.
Mm,
Um, and that was the shift. And that was when the light went off and or went on, and so I backed off. I stopped doing a lot of Zumba classes, and I used to set myself on fire just so everybody else would be warm in class, and I stopped doing that. And people don't think you're mad. They think you're mad, but you're not. It's just that I've been playing this role
mm,
for a long time, and now I don't want to do that anymore. Another thing that happens is my experience is people will come up to you and want to get together and talk about their family problems, so you become a dumping ground for everybody else's problems. And
mm.
then I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I backed off from doing that. And people think you're mad. And I'm not mad. I just, there's got to be something else besides all your problems. I'm thinking this to talk about. Um, so you stop doing things when an empath wakes up. You stop doing things that you've been doing for your entire life that people are used to. It's like on HSP, highly sensitive person,
Mhm.
and they made a demonstration. There's a documentary out. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes,
Sensitive.
with Alanis. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And with normal people, they fill up a glass and then we're done. The glass is full. Okay. With a HSP, they fill up the glass and the water's just pouring out all over the countertop. There's no end to it. And so that's that's kind of me,
Yeah.
And so anyway,
Well, that's a
did
big
I
shift.
answer?
That
Yeah.
that that's an incredible journey that you've gone through. There's so much nuance and depth. I think it's really cool to see the evolution that you've had in your life over the years. And how are you using that to navigate your life positively now? I know it seems like it's kind of a recent thing that's happened, but have you made any shifts?
I I have
Tell us more about that.
yeah. Um there's one person that um I used to go out to, she's married. I used to go out to lunch with her and we would talk mostly about problems and this and that. Anyway, Um, so she one time, this is skipping things, but anyway, one time she judged me and kind of texted me and kind of wrote a long text and judged me and this and that. And I read it and I'm going, you have no right to judge me. I'm thinking that. You have no right to judge me. You've got your own issues that you need to worry about. And I'm not going to bring those up, but I'm just thinking about this and how he's going to respond. And so what I did is I responded and I said, the weather's been fine. And I've been doing projects around the house, and I hope you have a nice summer. I didn't I didn't debate her. I didn't challenge
Mhm.
her. I didn't anything. That's all I said. And a week went by, and she's been trying to make amends by sending me these emojis and stuff like that. But she will never be back in my life again, personal. I'm not going to share anything personal with her again. So that's one thing, that I don't need to justify myself. This is my journey, and I will learn it as I go. And that was a big shift.
That's a big boundary setting moment and not
Yeah,
engaging in that behavior, trying to smooth everything over, explain
yeah,
yourself. So that sounds like, you use that opportunity to establish, what was a healthy dynamic moving forward for you. So that's a good one, Gordon.
yeah.
Very cool.
So
Well,
yeah,
do you have another one you wanted to share?
well, this is getting this is getting real personal. I didn't know it was going to be on YouTube. Another major thing was, that after the divorce, I have two boys and they have families and everything. When you're in with a covert narcissist and a dry alcoholic and emotionally immature in-laws, and a wife that probably wanted to um, be accepted by her parents,
Mhm.
and would do anything for them. One of the things that I asked her was, would you like it if my parents treated you the way your parents treat me? And she said no. And I said, would you treat your daughter-in-laws the way your parents treat me? And she said no. I says, well, how come they can treat me this way? Um, and she says, because they're my parents. It was a blank check with her parents. The problem was I was the target and the kids didn't see it. My in-laws with narcissism, and there's a thing called narcissistic family system.
Mhm.
And anyway, they were on emotionally on a like changing a person's diaper. That's how you bond with them. They were on emotionally toddler level. Well, my kids were saw them a lot, so they were able to bond with um, kids that age, and they didn't see a problem.
Mhm.
Um, but I was going crazy. I went to Al-Anon,
Mhm.
um, because of the gaslighting with them and the emotional abuse. And so they don't see it. And they don't, I've told them these stories and still um, they don't see the problem. So I
Yeah.
just walked away and left. Like, I didn't, I'm done. When you're done, you're done.
Right.
And you're not going to debate it anymore. You're not going to argue it anymore. You're just done. With my in-laws, I had to go no contact. I didn't even know what no contact was.
Mhm.
Um, but it was either stay in that situation with them and go crazy or just cut them off. And I did that for self-preservation. And that is kind of followed through with my kids. When you do that, when you have a boundary with your family, and I don't know what they expected out of me. It's totally clue. I guess they wanted to control me or whatever. Anyway, it's been 5 years, and they haven't. We don't really have a relationship, and I don't. I've studied this a little bit, and they thought they could control me. Like my one daughter-in-law said that after before we even signed the divorce papers, when my wife left, discarded me. Um, she said to me, Gordon, you need to come and talk to me once a week about your anger issues. And I'm not the problem. I'm thinking I'm not the problem. I am reacting to the problem, but you can't see it that way. So anyway, I stopped talking to him. I mean, we talk on the phone. I talk to my son on the phone and the grandkids, but it's just superficial stuff. But I don't think they assumed. I don't know what my assumption is that they were going to still be in control, and now that my life has progressed and I do things and I'm on my own and I'm not begging for forgiveness for anything because I don't have anything to beg for, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and we've gone over this 100 times, and you don't see it. So, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, no, it sounds like there have been a lot of cycles that you've had to work through these like unhealthy patterns and just had these moments of liberation and different dynamics. And so here you are today, probably experiencing a lot of freedom, but also probably some loneliness. Because even if those relationships were toxic, they were there. And so I'm curious, what does life look like now, as a senior citizen, navigating mental health, navigating your life on this chapter? Because I see you and I always see you with a big smile. Um, but I'm also happy that you don't feel like you have to smile all the time because not
Yeah,
everybody feels like
yeah.
that. So tell me about, what today looks like for you.
Well, you use the word loneliness, and for some reason, I hadn't felt lonely. I mean, I felt rejected and
Mm,
unvalidated, invalidated. Um, and I was alone. But I could go to a restaurant and eat and be fine by myself. And I went to the
same.
Philippines for 3 weeks alone, and I'm an extrovert. And anyway, that's another story. I mean, but I kind of attract people,
You
uh,
do.
and and also I learned the difference between being alone and solitude. And now I really enjoy solitude.
Good.
And so you know, it's interesting. It is interesting now. Um, after the divorce, when you were married for 48 years, that's all you've known. and you think you need to be married again. And I made a lot of mistakes. And then being in that religion taught you how to, you're supposed to go out and greet people and show what you have that they don't, and blah, blah, blah. And I, so I reached out to a lot of people, and I think they thought that I wanted to date them. I was just like, no, I just wanted to be friendly. Like there is a saying, to have friends, you have to be friendly.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that. But now um, I kind of dislike Facebook very much because people post pictures of all their family get-togethers, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, I don't have that. And I'm so glad you're broadcasting that out and you're so happy, but I don't have that. So don't judge me for wanting something that you have. Um, so
Yeah. I get
that's,
that. That makes a
yeah.
lot of sense to me, Gordon. It really does. A lot of there's, a lot of unhealthy stuff that goes down on Facebook on that regard. And, sometimes
Mhm.
you just got to make a clean break on some of this stuff so that way you can turn the page to make room for new good things to come through. Um, so yeah, you're not alone in those feelings. Well, Gordon, I was wondering if we could kind of move into asking some questions about um, being a senior and managing your mental health and maybe some of the unique things that come along with that. So, as a senior who has navigated some of these complex experiences, how are you managing your mental health now? Like, what are some things that you do differently?
Well, I'm kind of in a unique position as a senior citizen in that I don't have any financial issues. I can do pretty much anything that I want financially. So like I said, I went to the Philippines for 3 weeks, and then on the way back, I decided to break up the trip back, and so I went to Oahu and I spent a week on Oahu, and so that's money issues are not a concern. I have a neighbor that comes over. She's about 35 or so. Anyway, pregnant, and and they're going through some growing pains and stuff like financially, and and we're talking about a fence that needs to be updated, and we could split the cost, and anyway, I made the comment, the money's not an issue with me. And she goes, well, it is with us. So I don't have any issues there, and I don't, I can live a life that I want, but it's not an extravagant life just because I had the house up on Aubrey Butte, had the motor home, had the fancy cars and everything. And you split everything down the middle, and then so I've done that lifestyle. So now I can just do other things that I want to do. Um, how do I, as a senior citizen, I just want to eat right and exercise and
Yeah,
socialize, and
good.
I just this last week, I've had multiple people contact me and want to do things uh, with me. So people that I trust, so
Yeah,
that
I
that
love
was
that.
kind of a fun thing. And it
Yeah.
just kind of like this last week, multiple people have contacted me. to
That's
do this.
great. It sounds like
Yeah,
travel, keeping new adventures on the docket,
yeah.
have been good for you, and socializing with people that you look forward to seeing as opposed to like hearing the laundry list. Those have been helpful for you. Um, well, what do you think about physical activity like Zumba? Um, how does that contribute to a senior's mental wellness?
Oh, you have to, the brain, you have to keep your brain active. And Zumba, um, you're building new connections in your brain. You're keeping it active. In To keep your brain active, you can learn a new language. You can learn to play an instrument like uh, a piano, and it just builds new connections in your brain, and that's what helps keep you active. And also the socialization there, I have cut back because I just enjoy being around people, but I also have enjoyed being in solitude and doing
Yeah.
things on my own. And also, um, people have said that I'm a good photographer. So I have done all of my pictures on my phone. I have 13,000 pictures. And
Wow.
so I bought a camera. And if you have studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We use that in nursing. Um, to people who don't understand, have never heard of it, Maslow's, there's five steps. The basic step is food, clothing, and shelter. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot progress to the next level of safety unless you satisfy food, clothing, and shelter. So if you're living under a bridge, you don't go and try and sell them a retirement program. The only thing they're thinking about is how they're going to survive for that day. And then once they have survived that, they go into safety. And then the next one, the third step is love and belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And the fourth step is self esteem. And the fifth step is self actualization. In nursing, you use it, if somebody is in pain, you don't give them a book to read. You have to give them, satisfy their pain control, before they can move on. So in the self actualization, I have satisfied most of my needs. And then, so like if you're a CEO and you've got everything and all this power and everything, but you wanted to paint. And so you start painting. You've got everything else and you just want to paint. And so I bought this camera, and I think this is my self actualization, that
Yes.
I've got everything else that I need except for, you know, family or whatever. Might be working on that. And so now it's like I thought of it as fishing. I hate fishing. It's
It's so
so
boring.
boring. You're waiting for this animal to to bite your hook, and you're just standing there. But in photography, I kind of do the same thing. I wait for the light to come
The
and be
light.
just right. Yeah. So it's kind of like, in a way, kind of like fishing. That's how I
It
look
is for moments, for
at it.
beautiful
Yeah.
moments.
Yes. So
I love
anyway,
that.
yeah, so that's what my next adventure is going to be. I've already done it, but I'm just going to enhance it better with a actual um, Canon camera instead of the phone. Yeah.
Are you good at taking portraits of people? Picture.
Well, that's what I want to focus on. Um,
Oh, great. I could use a new
now I
headshot.
yeah.
Yeah, mine's about 6 years old. Um,
Yes.
well, I love that for you, Gordon. I really do. That's incredible. Well, I think we're, running out of time here, but I wanted to just, as we close, is there anything that kind of like comes to mind to you? Any final thoughts on healing or resilience, or senior mental health that you'd want to share with our listeners?
I you know, I think it you have to be curious. And I'm curious about how the mind works and how I'm curious about history and just to be curious. And there are those moments like, didn't expect that. That is a learning experience. In nursing, we have what we call learning experiences,
Mm,
where we made a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake, but if you fired everybody that made a mistake, you wouldn't have any staff left. So we go over it, what we could have done differently, and learn from that. And that's kind of my um, attitude in life, I guess. If you make a mistake, admit it, and then it'll never come back on you. Because
right.
if you deny a mistake, and that's what my in-laws and my ex-wife, they deny, 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 and then you just get in this circular argument.
Right.
And when you admit, you can't. I've already admitted to that, and I
Yeah.
see what I did wrong. Yeah. So that's um, just to be active and curious, read, and um, read about. This is mine. I like to study psychology kind of things
Oh,
because
well, you're in the
it
right
has,
bunch here, Gordon. I love that. Well,
yeah.
I like that. Stay curious, friends out there. You've heard it from Gordon, who you've been an incredible guest today. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for giving us some pearls of wisdom.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Maybe we can get together and do it again.
Yeah, let's see what happens in a year. You might have got some new stories to tell.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Casey.